Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Our Global Outlook segment is sponsored by Maury's monthly newsletter, Global Outlook. If you don't already have a subscription and you want to get a free copy, just log on to our website, theworldreport.org. How did an average English girl become the white widow terrorist? President Obama reaches out with phone calls and gifts to the Iranian regime while saying they have issued a fatwa against building nuclear weapons. Sounds a lot like Neville Chamberlain's naivety towards Heir Hitler in 1938. Maury, I turn to you for this because you were there. You lived through this. No one can bring more of a personal aspect to this story than you can.
Actually, you are correct as far as my personal involvement. I was a member of the youth movement at that particular time. And let's go back to late September 1938, where Hitler delivered an ultimatum against Edward Beneš, the president of Czechoslovakia, and said, we want the Sudetenland, because the Sudetenland had been part of Austria-Hungary. They weren't really Germans, they were Austrian Germans, but that didn't make any difference to Hitler. He wanted the Sudetenland, which is where the Czech fortifications were against any attack by the Germans. So Beneš said, no, we're a free country, and he appealed to England and France to come and support him as they had said they would at the end of the First War. And Chamberlain came to Munich, and Hitler used the same tactics he always did. He harangued. I mean, Hitler was an intimidator, probably the greatest intimidator the world's ever known. He screamed at them. He just broke the back and the mentality of people that he wanted to intimidate. So he started that thing with Chamberlain. To Chamberlain's credit at that time, he said, Mr. Hitler, we're not going to deliver Czechoslovakia in our hands. He then went back to England, and the British people were aghast at the fact that we're going to have another war. And he saw that there was...
They were war worried from the first war.
They were a world war. They had lost 800,000. England had never lost that many people because they're basically a naval
And would you agree that World War I is what ushered Hitler in
No question.
to Germany?
Oh, that's an easy one. Absolutely. Absolutely. There were a number of reasons for it, but you're absolutely right. The humiliation of the Versailles Peace Pact against Germany, trying to squeeze them, that's why they had the big inflation in 1922-23. But anyway, Neville Chamberlain comes back at the end of September, and the British people are aghast at the fact that he walked away from a peace treaty. Now, just think Iran and think Czechoslovakia and Germany and England. So Chamberlain takes the initiative. Think Chamberlain and Obama. Chamberlain takes the initiative and contacts Adolf Hitler. Yes. And then he gets the Prime Minister of France, Édouard Daladier, to come with him to give him strength. And the French were going through practically a civil war at that particular time. They had strikes every day. The place was falling apart. They had built a Maginot Line in their dream of defending themselves. Well, anyway, they went. They didn't go to Munich. They went to a place called Bad Godesberg, which was kind of a recreational place near Munich. And at that point, Hitler had Mussolini with him. And Chamberlain said, well, if you promise us that we'll make sure you get the Sudetenland, but if you'll promise us and put in writing that there will be no more territorial demands by the Germans, then I think we have a
And he
deal.
came back to Britain.
Well,
and
no, Hitler
was.
was, again, let's talk about Iran. You are absolutely right in this parallel, because Rouhani and Bahani, and they're laughing at us, and so he comes back with this peace treaty signed by Adolf Hitler, and he said, "I am happy to tell the British people that there will be no war and there will be peace in our time." And they were joyous. They were just they were so afraid that they were war weary. They weren't ready for another war, anything. And then Chamberlain said something that is not very well known. He said, and why should we go to war over a country that we know very little about and that's very far away? And Edward Beneš, the president, wasn't even informed. He was informed after the deal was done, and they were nice enough to let him have exiled in London.
And then Hitler did what?
Hitler went in and marched in.
Czechoslovakia.
What he did is he took over the Sudetenland and immediately terrorized it, as he has done any country that he conquered since. And then Hacha, who was the prime minister of Czechoslovakia, said, I can't handle this because the Slovaks now want their own country. So it broke up, and so the prime minister of Slovakia asked Hitler to come in and save him from the Czechs. So on March 15, 1939, the Wehrmacht, the German military, walked into Prague and they took over the country. I mean, this is the way it happens when you've got.
So now let's switch gears and go to present-day Iran.
Yes.
They throw out Ahmadinejad. Well, they replace him with another puppet, Rouhani. But he's supposed to be a moderate, and he's supposed to be a peaceful guy that we can talk with and that we can make negotiations with. President Obama calls him on. First, he got snubbed by him at the UN, but then he calls him on the phone and offers him gifts of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And Rouhani says, we have a fatwa against nuclear
more
weapons.
Than that, he was talking about taking off the sanctions that have been squeezing Iran very, very badly. And Rouhani, this was deliberate. Ahmadinejad hurt Iran because he was so obvious in telling the truth that he wanted to get rid of Israel, eliminate it from the face of the earth, and he denied the Holocaust ever happened. And even Khamenei, who is the supreme leader of Iran, said, wait a second, this guy is hurting us because he's telling the truth. So Rouhani is
much more calm in his approach.
Well, because he was also the nuclear delegate from Iran. You know, while he was saying, "Oh, you know, we're certainly trying to slow things down." Same as Korea. Why do you think the Koreans have the bomb? You think this is a big deal for Iran to get it? Give them another 6 months, they'll say, okay, now we've got to have one because Israel has a bunch of them. And as long as Israel has them, we deserve it too.
And Rouhani has written in his own memoirs that the calm approach will allow them to finish their work, so to speak, which means a nuclear weapon.
But a child.
And let me ask you a question. Do you think that this president is naive, or do you think he's sinister in his approach with the Iranians right now?
That's a very, very good question.
Because if you listen to his past sermons from his pastor, very, very anti-Semitic for 20 years. I can't think that he didn't hear those things and believe those things.
I think his belief system is not what some of his supporters will let you think they are. But I think he is a weak person to begin with. He is not I would even begin to compare. First of all, Hitler does not deserve comparison with any other human being because he's a monster. He was the greatest monster ever.
I was only comparing the tactic and the response by Neville Chamberlain and this president.
You did the right thing, but Iran is now, look, they have Hezbollah, they've literally taken over Lebanon. Jordan is teetering at the edge because 65% of their population are Palestinians.
Syria has a civil war.
You got Hamas. They want to keep Assad in power. And they have an ally in Russia because Russia has a seaport in Tarsus. Exactly. For the Tsars could never get a seaport in the Mediterranean because the Ottoman Empire bottled them up with the Dardanelles. So now Russia sees in Syria an ally who will keep them in the Mediterranean where they have, because Putin is a power guy. He now is the most powerful leader in the world today. And he couldn't barely hide his totally disdain and disgust with Obama. I don't think Obama has his reactions speak for themselves. He's a weak person and he reacts weakly. He appoints John Kerry as his Secretary of State, Foreign Minister. And Kerry says, okay, we know that it's been proven now that the chemical weapons were issued by Assad and his gang, so we're going to shoot some drones or we're going to shoot some cannon fire into Syria. And then as we expected this would happen immediately, then Obama goes for a walk with a couple of his associates, and he said, wait a second, we better see what Congress wants to do. First, he didn't give a darn about Congress. Then he says, well, and then suddenly the next thing he knows, let's have a Neville Chamberlain moment. Let's see if we can't discuss. These are fellow human beings. I'm sure they will. He doesn't realize that Iran in this time period is as dangerous as Germany was in the late 30s and early 40s.
Even more, because Germany was working on the bomb, but they didn't get it. They never got it.
I'm not talking about Germany from the bomb. I mean the power that Germany was able to exert even without having the atomic bomb. That's true.
Let's shift gears for a second. We only have a couple minutes left here. The White Widow. We're seeing a little bit different tactic taken by the Islamic terrorists, recruiting white women, and they're putting blood on themselves and blowing up malls. And I mean, this is a different tack than we've seen in years past. It should scare people.
Because the Islamic jihadists, by the way, I don't buy this thing about, gee, there's these nice, moderate Muslims. Where are they? I haven't seen any of them. They used to say that about Germany in the 40s. Oh, most Germans don't really like Hitler and so on. I beg to differ. I'd say 90% of Germans were fully behind Hitler.
But would they want to see the extermination of another human race?
Yeah, well, the Germans, yes, they were willing executioners. Who do you think killed not only 6 million Jews, but another 20 million other people, too? Those were Germans. These weren't some race from another planet. These were Germans who were taught by Hitler to follow him in his dictate. I would say you've got the most similar situation in this era to the Hitler situation in the middle of the 20th century.
Just explain the White Widow for a second, because I don't know if a lot of Americans are paying attention. There's so many things going on.
I understand the White Widow because they're the least expected. You know, it's like that cartoon about you see an old lady going through TSA and they jump on her and then you see a guy with armaments coming in, you know, with a burnous and so on. Oh, they let them go right through. It's just a reverse. The jihadists are smart enough to know nobody thinks about white women committing those kind of crimes. And so now they have brought them into the picture, and they found
their new recruiting tool.
They're not only that though, they don't project danger. So consequently, they can get away with things that even a non-Muslim white man could not get away with.
That Nairobi bombing was horrific. A lot of things just get glossed over because, like I said, there's so many things going on. But that was one of the worst massacres to occur in my lifetime. That was a horrific bomb explosion that went off over there, and she was behind it.
Well, she was the one that orchestrated it. You had one in India. You've had a number that you had the subway in London. And what I don't understand is how these European countries, they're getting mauled by these Muslims. And somebody who had been to France in the last month said the French people as such now are just absolutely furious that 7 million Muslims have gotten into France. And most of those were French citizens out of Algeria. Algeria was a part of, it was a component part of France.
And it might be a little bit too late.
Too late, absolutely.
Once you've diversified your population, it doesn't take long to multiply you out of the majority.
Look, the one thing is, you know, you're accused of being too critical when you criticize a religion or people that adhere to a religion, but you can't. The facts are the facts. When people are committed, look, I feel sorry for the Coptic Christians. You know,
in Egypt,
they were saved. They were saved by General Assisi, one of the great men of this time. You know, you know how he's fighting them? He's killing them. He's the Islamic Brotherhood.
Eye for an eye.
And he is murdering them. And that's what people say, that, well, this guy was democratically elected. He says, I'm here to save my country, and he's doing a good job of it. I wish there were more guys